Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin, founder, proprietor, owner, and everything else of LeanTossup Sports. Robert, there are some fantastic games this weekend, but I got to tell you what I'm really, really looking forward to, almost as much as the football. This is Monday night, the week of Thanksgiving. Thursday is Thanksgiving. I don't know if you guys have the same setup in Canada, but sneakily underrated. The night before Thanksgiving, if you want to have cocktails, that is like just underrated time to get after it. I don't know if it's the same thing up there, but man, I'm looking forward to having a couple of drinks on Wednesday night. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of, I think, similar to like Christmas Eve. I guess we don't have necessarily the same traditions for Thanksgiving that you guys. Well, it's like similar, but like Canadian Thanksgiving is similar, but just like at like a tenth of the scale. So like it's not. It's like we have the same holiday, but like you guys have built it up a lot more. So it's similar, but not nearly the same extent. But yeah, it's right before a holiday, before everything. You have to go see family and all that stuff. It's nice to kick back and relax a bit. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Getting my metrics here going into rivalry weekend. The top 20 strength of record. Washington, with that big win at Oregon State, actually, they jumped to number one in my strength of record. I think you had them lower than number five, so I think they moved up in your rankings as well. Does that sound right?
Let me check. I think I have them at 4. Uh,
Before the Oregon State game?
no, I final rankings. I'm not my strength of schedule. I have them at 9th.
Okay. Oh, this is the college football rank. I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
the CFP rank. Yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah, at some point, maybe the losses we talked about in week one, the loss by James Madison might actually get some attention to Liberty, although those dopes on the committee seem a little hopeless. Um, Alabama, I've got them number five. I actually grabbed a little bit of them to win the national title at 6-1 last week. I think if they get past Georgia, it'd be interesting. And I think that was as much, I keep on hearing, and maybe I'm a little biased here, I keep on hearing the same dopey national guys, saying, hey, you know what? Listen to this. Jalen Milroe's not a bad quarterback, guys. And it's like, okay, maybe there's idiots that are just, kind of slow on the draw and don't believe that he's got really good metrics or just can't read his stats
Yeah.
alone. So, I thought as much as a play on that, and their defense has not really been in doubt at any point this season. Really, interestingly, it's totally counter to the narrative that they made up going into the season. The problem with them is their run game. It's not really that great. But I don't know. It's I don't want to say it's a 1-game season, but I think if they get past Georgia and things fall right in terms of maybe sneaking into the number 3 spot and avoiding the winner of Ohio, Michigan, they might just kind of get a little lucky path there. Let me see what else I got. Missouri moved up to number 9 with their nice win over, apologies, your Gators.
Close win though.
Yeah.
That spread's like 12. So
yeah, no, it was. No, that was a good call by you. Toledo, I've got at number 15, which is interesting. I think I saw them. They hit the coaches poll or the AP. Be interested to see if the committee includes them as well. We talked about in part 1, we still got that divergence, or I do, in my strength of record and the power ratings for Oregon. I clearly think that they're closer to number 6 and number 17 in terms of, if I'm handicapping who I don't want to face. Mm-hmm. And Kansas State sneaks into the top 20 of mine after that win over Kansas, plucky Kansas, on their 3rd quarterback, interestingly.
Yeah, Kansas State has had a very up and down season, and they're the defending Big 12 champions, and it's insanely hard to pin them down. They have ebb and flows throughout the year too. They're good and then bad and then back to good again. Like they lost to Missouri and then should have maybe beaten Texas. It's just like it's crazy.
Yeah, it just seemed like they slept through that Missouri game weirdly. It just looked like they didn't really give a crap in that one. All right, my power ratings top 20. Here we go. Number 1, number 2 to play this weekend. That'll be an interesting one. As I mentioned, Oregon, I've got much higher on my power ratings than the strength of record. LSU is basically all offense. Literally, I think they've got their defense is like a 0 on the season. Washington moves up to number 7. That's a big move. Both the strength of record and the power ratings like that win over Oregon State is as ugly as it was at times. That's a good team that they beat. You're higher. This is kind of funny to say out loud. Your model is higher on Texas than my power ratings are. That's kind of funny. Neither of us punished Oregon State too much for that close win against a good Washington team. You've been a lot behind on SMU versus my model for whatever it's worth, which is interesting because I kind of had the cautionary watch out for SMU as the schedule's going to get tougher here, and maybe your model's got that built in where my power ratings don't, but my brain did. You got skipping ahead a little bit to 3 new teams in the top 20. Toledo, they're just ascending at the right time. Ole Miss has been in and out, and interestingly, and they're number 25 in your rankings as well, USC. Their offense is actually pretty solid, and the defense actually was. It didn't seem like it. The defense actually held UCLA to about 5 yards per play, which is good. The problem is 1 bad interception and 2 horrible turnovers deep in their own territory. Now they just got outplayed beside that too, but no eyeball test when it comes to the power ratings. The power ratings just look at the numbers and say, okay. And it's just, it's interesting that in a week when they moved up in my ratings that, there's confirmation on your side as well.
That's the thing, right? And for USC, there'll be a bowl game, which I'd expect Caleb Williams to opt out of, and their season is functionally over. But, I mean, to be fair, their season has been functioning over for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, positive signs for next year, right? Like, USC is a fun team. They've been a fun team with Caleb Williams. If their defense stopped people, they would have been even more fun. So let's. I'm excited to see what they could do next year in the Big Ten. They can introduce the concept of offense to the Big Ten. So that they're gonna how many points on average points scored per game. How many points are they gonna raise the Big Ten average by just by joining the Big Ten?
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting. Will they be able to do it against Iowa? Will they be able to do it against Nebraska? Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see.
I'm excited to see that too. Yeah. A couple of things I want to note here. It's actually fascinating. We've now converged on James Madison because we have wildly different JMU numbers for weeks. Because I think you were a lot higher on James Madison. I was lower on it, but now we've converged in exactly the middle. So that's kind of fun. Another kind of, I guess, nerdy stats point I want to make for Florida State. Because this is where this gets interesting, the difference between our models, right? Because my model simulates every game, basically every team versus every other team. So I get kind of live data. So what happens is because FSU had to play the backup quarterback, I have him as their quarterback now. And because of that, now he's basically by using him, I think Florida State is still the 14th team in the country. You have them still number 8. How much would Jordan Travis be kind of factored into that? Like
his absence?
How much?
None.
Yeah, his absence. So you can't account for that, right? So
no.
I will say it's interesting that my model's still so high on them. Like I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fall, and to be fair, there is still some strength of schedule baked into that, but I think it's kind of it's interesting that we still have them so high. So that my model's still hey, they're not dead. So,
well, as a holder of a ticket, a pretty decent sized ticket of them as national champs, I have them as dead. I'll just say that.
The problem is they could, and we'll talk. This will be my deeper dive. Spoiler for 10 minutes from now. They could cause a little kind of a crisis here. Yeah. So, well,
definitely. All right, top offenses, same old story, LSU, USC, and Oregon in the top spot, followed, actually Washington fell down a little bit with that game. They've been at number 2 or 3 for quite a while. That game in the rain against a good Oregon State defense dragged them down. Toledo with a big move up all the way to number 12 from outside the top 20. I forget, they played some just absolute dead weight. I want to say wasn't Akron, but it was kind of that level of just like hopeless, overwhelmed. Was it Michigan? Western Michigan?
No, it was. Was it Eastern Michigan?
It might have been. Yeah, it just they just they capitalized on the opportunity, and congratulations from that. Oh, it was Bowling Green. No. Yeah, it was the only one
Yeah,
by
it was
one.
Bowling Green. Yeah.
How is that? Well, they scored 32 points. That's it. Bowling Green is actually sneakily high in my defensive ratings. I'm still not sure how that happened, but they've been consistent for a while now. I think that's what happened there. So, yeah, otherwise, besides that, nothing really surprising here from me. What about you?
Yeah, no, this is exactly what I kind of expect. Again, fascinating seeing Ohio State creeping up that ranking, though. That's the thing. It's been the last couple of weeks too. Um, kind of since that Penn State game. Again, they just keep getting better and better. They're figuring it out, right? And I think, um, I again, this week, I mean, it's the game, right? This is the big game, and this is all coming down to this, right? So it's good to
Yep.
see them clicking finally, and I'm excited for this game. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right, on defense, Penn State used the throttling of Rutgers to go back into the top spot there. Um, Jacksonville State, man, they put it on Louisiana Tech to jump in, kind of like Toledo, all the way at number 12 from outside the top 20. They've been in the top 20 before, too. And then South Alabama finally kind of making good on the promise they had on the defensive side of the ball. They shut out Marshall, capitalizing on the frauds in West Virginia to jump in at number 15 here. A little bit surprised that Air Force was able to stay in, although that was a good offense they faced in UNLV. And Oregon's defense, it's man, I like a month and a half ago they were like top 5, and it's not like they fell out. It's just like there's been a slow crawl down, and probably a lot of it has to do with shutouts and probably their play. It might be in a lot of garbage time. I'm guessing
There has been that and you can see it, right, and you see it. You saw it a bit in that USC game. Now maybe at a certain point you're just kind of like, okay, like when you're up a billion points, it doesn't really matter as much. You're just kind of like, okay, like are you really going full out when you know, hey, we're gonna be saving up for the Pac-12 championship game? We're doing this, right? Like there are questions about that, but yeah, you can see it. Like some of those games they've let teams stay in the games a little bit longer than they were earlier. And I mean, again, they're still winning games and mostly covering the spread. But hey, to be fair, they're also covering pretty inflated spreads. Like they're not like beating teams by 7; they're beating teams by 24, right? So it's a mixed bag. But yeah, their defense has definitely has noticeably gotten just a little bit worse, and it's we'll see.
yeah,
A little concerning, but I'm not losing sleep over that. No.
yeah. Well, I guess the counterpoint is, hey, if we're going to have a lot of garbage time and the defensive rating goes down, I'll take that 11 times out of 10.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good problem to have. All right, the group of 5 top 10. Liberty, has been there pretty much the whole way. SMU, I've had here in the top 5 for about the last few weeks. They're still, as we talked about, a little lower on them than I am. San Jose State has been, they've just confirmed their spot the last 2 weeks. They jumped in out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned, and they've had, a couple of nice wins since then. Appalachian State jumps up into the top 10 with that nice win over James Madison, which gives us 4 of the top 10 from the Sun Belt. Congratulations to that fine conference. Tulane actually finally jumps in. He said sarcastically with that huge win over Florida Atlantic. Really well done. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
25-8, yeah.
Yeah. And then Miami still stays in the top 10. You've got him pretty low, which is understandable, especially with Avion Smith. I don't know. He's played respectably well, better than I expected since Gabbert went out. So they might actually be kind of sneaky, not so bad next year too. He seems capable of kind of taking over for Gabbert.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Top 10 Apex quarterbacks. No new names on here. Bo Nix went up a couple more spots because he threw for like 400 yards and a half, so that helps. Jalen Milroe played against an FCS team, so he wasn't eligible to move up. We don't count that. Interesting. Penix fell a little bit in that weird game in the rain. Makes sense if you watch that. He wasn't a liability. It was both quarterbacks kind of struggled in that one.
Yeah, that was a slog. So
yeah. Interesting too. You said Dylan Gabriel might be out too. That'll be interesting. Their backup is actually Jackson Arnold. He's a freshman, but he's a very highly rated freshman. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they've got an easier spot this week. Weird kind of the Big 12. The Big 12 final week is a weird schedule. They still have Farmageddon, as they call it, Iowa State and Kansas State, but a lot of the other rivalries are just kind of like they just moved them throughout here and there, which is interesting.
Yeah, they've done this for a couple of years now. I think one of the things is the fact that this used to be Texas A&M, and then since Texas A&M moved to the SEC, that was one of the big rivalries from this weekend gone. Oklahoma, I think, never played. They always played Oklahoma State midseason. They always played Texas midseason too. So they never had their, or did they have it? Or maybe they moved it.
I think sometimes it would be at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so too. But maybe they moved it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's a transition year for the Big 12. We'll say that.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah. Top player Ryan's two. I'm not gonna say new names. 2 names jumping back into the top 10. In the offseason, I'm going to have to study up on this gentleman, the gentleman at UTEP, his last name. I haven't mastered it yet. I have a feeling he might not be at UTEP next year. Just a feeling on my end. And then Brian Thomas Jr. back in the top 10 as well. Going up one spot, Taj Washington might be another one of those USC. I'll just sit out the Bulls. Thank you very much. Give my receptions to somebody else. And then Ricky White actually has just gone up and up this. I think he was barely in the top 10 a few weeks ago, and he's number 3 now.
Yeah.
All right. Team Ryan, nothing new here except Texas jumps into the top 10. A little bit surprising considering that they actually had a close game against Iowa State. Got to say that's a little bit impressive to jump in against a good pass defense like that, but otherwise, not too surprising here. James Madison stays in the top 10 despite that loss to App State last weekend.
Yeah.
The top running offense is two new entrants. This is not surprising the way Jacksonville State just ran it up on Louisiana Tech, jumping in from out of the top 10 to number 6. Just an awesome, first FBS season for them. Really good job as I kind of expected. It kind of seems quaint now. You might remember I said, I didn't go on a limb. I just said, I don't know why Phil Steele has Sam Houston ahead of Jacksonville State. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville State's going to be better in year 1 here, and it's not even close. Actually, they would be contending for the Conference USA title game if they were eligible. But I don't know if you've heard of this. These new FCS teams are not eligible. Are you aware of that? Have you heard of that recently?
Yeah, actually, here's something there's even something crazier. I don't think I even mentioned this before. So the one I was listening to I was out driving the one night, and it was the what game? It was Sam Houston versus UTEP. I was listening to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was listening to it on the radio, or like not there's obviously no radio broadcast for that in Canada, but through online radio I was listening to it. And apparently, and this is so insane, not only are the teams that come up from FCS to FBS, not only are they ineligible for the postseason, apparently conferences have their own rankings of most passing yards, most receiving yards, most tackles. Players from those schools are ineligible to appear on those. Why? What does that even have to do with anything? It's so nuts.
You say that now until next year when Kennesaw State has a great quarterback. You're just going to say, thank God they kept this guy from being the number 3 quarterback ranked in Conference USA. Thank God that they did that. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. And there's New Mexico State, number 5. They just actually just shoved it right in Auburn's face. Good for them. Mm-hmm. Just a great season for them as well. Boy, lot of movement in the bum list. Gavin Wimsatt, in fairness, he faced a really tough Penn State defense, so he just ran up to number 2. I don't get Bowling Green. Their offense is every bit as bad as I thought it was going to be. And here's Connor Bazelak as number 3. They actually have a winning record, I think. I think they're going to go to a bowl for the second year in a row. All in the strength of their defense. Don't get it, but I guess congratulations to them, question mark. Number 6, Jeff Undercuffler, a new guy in here. If you've been watching any box scores of Akron, not that anybody watched their actual games aside from me, this was just a matter of time until he had basically enough attempts to get onto the list here. He's been all that you would expect from an Akron backup quarterback. In part 1, I talked about how horrible Ethan Kalakmanis has been from Minnesota, and there he is at number 7. He was in here earlier and then jumped out for a little bit somehow. Bryson Barnes, I think, was in our bum list top 10 earlier this season as well, of Utah, if I remember correctly. So was unable to deal with that now, I guess, really good Arizona defense, who has just proven me to be wrong. And then not surprisingly, in the worst team, Ryan's Kent State sneaks in at the 10th worst. It's kind of surprising they haven't been higher for longer, as that's just been a completely horrible rebuild job for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad because we were pretty high on Emory Jones. I mean, well, we were just like, he's not bad, but yeah,
and figured it'd be a good spot, a good match for him with that coach. But man, I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't like the cold weather. Florida and Arizona State were good for him, and Cincinnati isn't.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just a fault. It's weird. I think, like, of all these guys who dropped down, because we were like, because how many were like, we said for like Nebraska, oh, we would have taken so and so, or we would have taken so and so, and like they've
Casey Thompson.
Now, again, yeah. Now, to be fair, Casey Thompson also was injured. And also, to be fair, the pick we criticized, Jeff Sims, he was also pretty bad, too. He got benched. So, like, again, that's not necessarily... We were still correct in the Jeff Sims analysis. Yeah. But, like, maybe we were off a bit. Maybe there are some people doing some advanced scouting on some of these guys, and they're seeing some stuff in there. Now, there's also other things, too. There's circumstances. There's the talent around you. So that makes some of these guys worse, potentially. But Cincinnati's kind of... They are a Big 12 school, but they're transitioning, so... Yeah, but, like... you almost wonder for some of these guys if, like, I mean, Emory Jones was a quarterback for Florida, right? Some of these guys, like, had potential NFL, a little, like, it's hard to say for some of these guys because some of them are like, yeah, okay, maybe. But, like, they were being evaluated for the NFL for some of these guys. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you're the quarterback for Cincinnati now because we have no one else. Yeah. Right? And I think there's a little bit of, like, what am I doing here? And, like, I'm getting a free degree, so I'm just gonna, right? Like, I think there's some of that in there too. So,
yeah,
some of these guys may have just given up a bit.
I doubt that because we have nobody else was part of the recruiting pitch, but I've never been an athlete, so I don't. Maybe it is, and I'm not privy to that.
One thing, one quick thing I will say. Go back for one quick second there. Keegan Shoemaker for St. Lucie State. So I mean, here's the thing. It's like. They have, like, they almost beat Western Kentucky. It was weird. My model had that as a play, and I'm like, all right, sure, model. And then they almost won. I'm like, what? I don't understand how they did it. I won the spread bet. I didn't win the money line. I feel bad because they had, like, first and goal with, like, a minute left in the game, and there was a 4th down interception in the end zone for touchback. So, not the most happy with Keegan Shoemaker right now. But either way, though, like, they're like they've figured it out or figured something out, I guess. I don't know. I mean, clearly they're not making a bowl. They can't play in a bowl game anyway. But watch out for them next year. They might be like, because early on they're not going to get any respect in the betting lines. I'm like, he may have figured out after being horrible for like 6 weeks, which is what dooms him to the bum list. They may have actually figured out some stuff. So
yeah, I mean, their offense was so bad. They were just an automatic under bet the first like 3 or 4 weeks. Then if you actually watched him when we got into Cuse action in October, when I saw him play for the first time, I thought, hey, this guy, he doesn't look that bad. And I don't know if like he just kind of got it all of a sudden, but there were a couple games.
I think they changed their quarterback too, I think.
I think for 1 game or 2. But, you watch him and he doesn't look that horrible. Like, I just think about the whole Western Michigan mess that was their quarterback situation last season. He doesn't look anything like that. I mean, he looks like he knows what he's doing. He can throw the ball. He's perfect, far from it. But yeah, he doesn't look like your typical bum list guy.
Also, I definitely got some free money from him passing yardage over. Now, to be fair, some of that is the model saying, okay, they're going to be behind, so they're going to pass more, so therefore bet his passing yardage over. But still, though, there is some hey, this guy's not bad, so.
Yeah. Speaking about this guy's not bad. This guy is bad. Look at Cole Snyder has such just a grip on the bum list of the year thing. I mean, Gavin Wimsatt really needs to have a horrible game, and Cole Snyder needs to have the game of his life, basically, to have a reversal of fortunes here.
Yeah,
yeah.
And it's half of the next closest, almost half of the next closest person on the list. It's yeah.
All right, top defensive apex. This is the best pass defenses. Liberty sneaks in there, number 10. We've got the number 1 and 3 going against each other this weekend. That's going to be an interesting matchup. You've also got Iowa. I think if we go back to the top defenses, you've got Iowa as the number 2 defense here, number 2 overall, and you've got Nebraska, very good defense as well. I think that total is. We'll get to that one later. I don't expect a lot of points in that one. I guess I'll just say that for now. That'll be interesting, if not a great watch.
Yeah.
Run defenses, Michigan sneaks in at number 7. Interestingly, after playing Maryland, who also sneaks into the top 10. That is really interesting considering how little Michigan ran the ball. That tells me that Maryland was very, very stout against a good Michigan running team, and they move up into the top 10. Now, this is a cumulative stat, so the better you do against more runs, the better your defensive GGAB is going to be. Interesting. And then going back to that Black Friday craziness, you've got Iowa and Nebraska here. So they have faced a lot of runs. They've done very well about it. Again, so far, everything points to the under in that game, although, we haven't really quantified it yet. But this seems like, I don't know. I think that Penn State Rutgers game is going to be a barn burner compared to what we're going to be looking at in this one here.
Yeah, this game is this is going to be a fun watch, like the moth watching a flame. That's what this game is going to be. So I'm pretty excited for this.
All right, market intelligence. Let's talk about some games here. We just spoke about Iowa at Nebraska. The first thing you've got the division champ, and this is actually Nebraska by 1 now, if I remember.
Yeah, I saw one. I think I saw 2 somewhere. I know, blowout. I've seen a couple of. Let's see, what is the most recent line on here? But I'm seeing pick Nebraska favored. Yeah, Nebraska by 2 on Bet365 right now.
Iowa has lost how many games this season? Only 2, I think. Does that sound right? Maybe 3.
Yeah. They did win the Big Ten West. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's just weird. Now, maybe part of it is it's a road game. Nebraska's obviously, like most teams, has been significantly better at home, but Nebraska's 3-5 in conference. Iowa's 6-2. Nebraska's a negative point differential in conference as well. Maybe it just boils down to home game, and it's a good matchup in terms of styles for Nebraska.
So what I kind of like here is whoever is getting points, just tease it up, because you're either they let me. I think yesterday I was able to tease Nebraska up. It was again Nebraska +1. I teased up to 7, and then I teased actually the next game down. I teased Memphis in the next game down, but and some books let you do same game teases, so you could tease Iowa up to 8 and the over up to an astounding 33. You could tease it to under 33. So, or alternatively, you could tease it to over 20, which, why would you ever do that? That's an insane thing. Don't ever try that. That's going to backfire somehow. So tease the under up to 33. And then, because we all know what's going to happen in this game. No one's going to win this game. There's no way someone can win this game by a touchdown. They're going to win this game by a safety, the way football wasn't meant to be played. So, tease up to a full score. It's like free money.
Yeah, especially in a game that's so low scoring like this. the value you get about cheesing it up 6 points, the total,
It's massive.
versus like Washington Oregon game. I mean,
Yeah.
what's 6 more points? We're at 66. Who cares at that point?
Yeah.
It's so valuable in a game like this. So just one of those things I've learned.
Mhm.
Um, Next one, Memphis, who's in the, top of the division. This is just, it's interesting. I would at first point think that they should be giving more than 11.5 to Temple. Memphis has had a good season. I think this might be a little bit of recognition about, all right, EJ Warner's kind of having the season now, or he's been playing lately, of maybe the potential they showed at times last year. He's been a lot better recently, and I think that's got to be some of that. It's not like, well, maybe there's some weather factored into this too. I just don't think anybody says, boy, Temple's a tough place to play if you're a road team.
Yeah, it's not one of those top 10 toughest stadiums to play in. Yeah, I don't understand why this is 11. I teased Nebraska up and Memphis down. I think that's again, that could backfire. I suspect the thing that would backfire is a Memphis leg of that, but you never know. Like, Temple hasn't been particularly good. Memphis has actually been pretty not bad in some games, so I don't know. I still don't hate that as a teaser. Like, you can tease with this, right? So that's not.
Yeah.
I like that tease.
Yep. We spoke about this one a little bit in part one. Air Force at Boise giving 6.5. I bring this up because, if we were looking at this 3 weeks ago, this would have been, basically Boise getting 6.5 rather than giving 6.5. Does that seem fair?
Oh no, 100%. And again, like when I first looked at this, I was like, "Oh, is Air Force's quarterback out?" Because like this
Yeah.
makes no sense. Like, but then I'm like, "Wait, Air Force doesn't use a quarterback, so that doesn't make any sense either." I don't understand why Boise is giving 6.5. That makes no sense. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna go with Air Force here. Apparently, if Boise wins this game and then some other stuff happens, they can go to the conference championship game, which is just insane. Like they fired if and this is if you fire your head coach, it's not like they fired their head coach and then 2 weeks later they went to the conference championship game. Like those are not things that are generally said in the same sentence. Um, Air Force has looked bad the last couple of weeks. That being said, they looked progressively not as bad against UNLV. UNLV is actually a good team, and they actually played them pretty close. Okay, yes, they lost, but they still played them close. Um, Again, UNLV is a lot better than Hawaii, and they played them a lot closer than they played Hawaii, which is an insane thing to say, but it is true. Um, yeah, give me the points with Air Force here. I know famous last words, but we're riding with our planes one more time, and then maybe in the championship game, but we'll see. But yeah, like come on, at a certain point, Air Force has to stop the skid. They're gonna figure this out, and I don't think Boise's a particularly good team. So yeah,
Yeah.
give me Air Force the points.
Fair. Oregon State at Oregon. I bring this up. We spoke about this in part one. I'm interested to see basically how DJU does against the Oregon pass defense, just to see if we can infer anything about the Washington pass defense and see, is Washington, are they maybe as good as DJU? I don't, or as good as Oregon's pass defense? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think he was so bad against Washington. Like I said in part one, his apex was a 9. Does he rebound? I don't know. Based on his good and bad splits, to put it, in a really broad, lowbrow term, I can't see him keeping it close. Now, the thing is, Oregon State basically had a one-dimensional offense last year, and they were able to one-dimension the second half into a win. Oregon's defense is a lot better now, and it's at Oregon. I couldn't. If you gave me $10 to play on this game, I'd go with Oregon. I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with this one. It's an interesting game. I'm going to be excited to watch this one though.
Yeah, I will be as well because again, this is the last thing stopping Oregon from going to the Pac-12 championship game and then a rematch in the Pac-12 championship game and then potentially the college football playoff. So yeah, I'm going to be watching this one as well. At first, I was concerned. I saw 14. This is before I had my model, and I was like, that seems excessive. I don't think it's going to be that bad. And then sure enough, I had 13.9. So I'm like, oh, okay. Guess it is 14 then. But yeah, it's a rivalry game. I didn't think it was going to be that much. But sure enough, it is, right? So yeah, it's a little concerning. But I do think Oregon is the better team. And now this is the same thing with this one, and you don't have it mentioned here, but Washington State, Washington, these are their arch rivals, and they are basically abandoning the conference and in the process of destroying the conference and leaving these two teams alone in the conference because, like, basically Oregon and Washington leaving is now the domino effect of that is now what's leaving Washington State and Oregon State in the Pac-12. Actually, that's right. I forgot to mention this in part one. One of the reasons why Washington State was my winner of the week because they also won in court too, so they got 2 wins this week, not just one. But anyways, no, like there is definitely resentment there, and this is still this happened recently. This happened in like September. This was like 2 months ago. So you're compounding rivalry on top of you did this to us. I mean, they're at Pac-2 now. It is so sad. They're having to ask like the NCAA for special permission to exist as a conference. Like, do you know how humiliating that is? Like, can we please exist as a conference? Like, it's so sad. And the NCAA is like, yeah, we feel bad for you because everybody left you alone. So, okay. Like, it is so sad of a story. And it's just like, you've got to worry that, like, there isn't some, I mean, obviously there's anger anyways in this matchup, but you've got to worry that there's not some, like, we're taking you out. And now that being said, though, of the two of them, I'd be much more worried. I know it sounds weird, but I'd be more worried for Washington State upsetting Washington. I kind of think, I mean, just for the simple reason of defense, I think Oregon has a better defense. So, like, Oregon is more equipped to stop an angry Oregon State than Washington is to stop an angry Washington State. Like, if Washington State just goes full God mode, they can score on Washington. But if Oregon State does that against Oregon, Oregon can shut them down, right? So that's why I'm less worried. I don't know. This isn't no spread play for me, but like I could see if I had to, like, maybe it's an emotional hedge. I do Oregon State here just because. Now again, Oregon can still win this game comfortably and not cover 14. It's a big spread, to be fair, very big spread. But here, if Oregon wins this game by like 14, if they cover this, they win by 17, they win by 21. Oregon's winning the Pac-12 championship. Like it's weird that I'm now lower on Oregon spreads than the books are. It's kind of weird that way, but it's a very weird position for me. But yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting is I thought Oregon had basically played their way in the conference championship game, but they do need to win this one because assuming you can go down, you can see Arizona is a pretty decent favorite against Arizona State. Arizona would win the tiebreaker if they win and Oregon loses because they would have both lost to Washington, and then they did not play each other, which is the first tiebreaker. Pardon me. The second tiebreaker is okay. You just look at which one has a better record against the highest rated team. So Washington they both lost to. Arizona would get it by virtue of, as he pulls up the standings here, their win over Oregon State. So if Oregon loses to Oregon State, then that means that they would also lose the tiebreaker to Arizona because Arizona handled them handily, which actually makes me think that Oregon is even more the play here. They're not going to screw around or just halfway show up.
Yeah, Oregon can't screw around here. So
yeah.
Now Washington losing to Washington State is fun, but it has like then Washington is the home and then Oregon I think would be the home. Oh no, Washington would still be the home team because they'd have the whole tiebreaker over Oregon. But like the concept,
it's in Las Vegas.
Exactly right. The concept of home team versus not home team in a neutral site is insane. It makes like just flip. It doesn't matter. Like you get the better dressing rooms. Who cares? Like it doesn't.
I didn't think of the dressing rooms. I was thinking of the uniforms. Okay.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the uniforms. But I mean, I'm sure. Like, if it's a neutral site game, I'm sure they, like, it's not like here's like a wooden bench. Like, they're clearly have, like actual adequate dressing rooms and like showers and stuff. I'm sure it's fine. But
I think actually, if you come in second, you have to dress it in like the Mandalay Bay and walk across the bridge just to get to the stadium. So
yeah,
it's not that bad before the game, but halftime's really unfair. Yeah,
you have to trudge out in the. Yeah, no, it's. Yeah, I just love the concept of home versus away in a neutral site game. It's funny to me, but
It is. All right, Ohio State at Michigan. This is the big one. I'm going to have my deeper dive on why I like Ohio State here. My model does not have it as a play. My model actually has Michigan by 2.5. So really a no play here. The one thing I do want to mention about this game, and I need your help because you're a smart guy that understands math maybe a little better than me. So help me out here. In September, Ryan Day pointed out that, as always, it's the world against Ohio. And now Michigan is saying, it's everybody against Michigan. So I'm trying to figure out, does anybody want anybody to win this game besides me? Because I want Ohio State to win. I'm the only one, I guess. I don't know, because everybody hates everybody in this game.
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if everybody hates Ohio State and everybody hates Michigan, then everybody wants everybody to lose. I guess that's kind of crazy. That's
The highest rated game of the season is going to be a hate watch. Is that the takeaway?
Half the country tunes in to watch Michigan lose. The other half turns in to watch Ohio State lose.
But everybody hates both these teams according to the coaches and the programs. I don't.
Yeah.
It's more than half. It's everybody. The only ones that don't hate. Yeah.
Who else could win this game? Who could win this game?
I don't know. I don't
Big
know.
Ten. I don't know.
I broke all logic and math, I think, with this point.
Yeah, this is like in the presidential elections in the U.S. where they say, we hate both candidates. Like, well, then who do you... Like, oh, we hate both people, but we'll vote for this guy. Be like, but why? You said you hate both these people. Why are you like, I hate both of them, but I'm going to vote for this person? Be like, but why? That doesn't make sense. By definition, you hate that person less than, so then therefore you don't actually hate them.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it's which is your analog to Harbaugh or Ryan Day, I guess, versus the candidates. I think the team serves as a fair avatar for anybody that has a problem with Jim Harbaugh. I don't think that's a stretch at all.
Where will he? So that they're at home. Where will he watch the game?
Yeah, he might be able to do like a press. Well, I don't know if he do a press box thing. That might be too close. Maybe if he's in a press box.
Well, like okay,
suite without headphones.
Well, I mean, obviously you can't have he wouldn't have a headset, but like if you put him in a, what's he gonna do? Yell out to the sidelines, run this play? Like what's he can't do anything. Like,
yeah. Speaking of which, did you see what they were doing? This just makes, I mean, I don't know. This is one reason I want Ohio State to win. When Michigan was having timeouts against Maryland, and then, did you see this? Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, I missed the first part of this game. What was happening?
So Michigan, or anybody would have a timeout, and so the team gathers around the coach on the sideline, right? Mm-hmm. Michigan ran out. I don't know if you call them staffers, Connor Stallion juniors or something, and they were holding up Michigan banners in front of the TV cameras, so the TV cameras could not go into the Michigan sideline huddles to see what's going on. I mean, it's literally to the point where they're trying to solidify. They want everybody to hate Michigan. That's what that's got to be about. I mean, it's I don't know.
That's like
that has to be the reason.
That's like That's like I think it's the fact that like if you're a Michigan fan, you've now worked yourself up to a thing where we cheated because everybody else is cheating, so therefore we have to because now they know we cheated, we have to combat everybody else's cheating. So we do. It's an insane, weird, justifiable space, and like you see it in some political parties.
I was going to say it's the same thing, yeah. But it's really that's like the cover story to really. Honestly, I think it is. That's the cover story to do something that's going to make everybody hate them more, because that's what they thrive on. I honestly think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get more into that a little bit of that in a second. Indiana at Purdue. I don't have this as a model play. Just when we get to this late in the season. Just to have some kind of angles. I'll look for money lines where I've got a difference that's not big enough to bet. Usually I need either a margin of 11 between the market and my number, or a dual model would be 7 for both of our models. And I don't see that here, but I've got this. We've both had Purdue handily here, but not big enough to make this a play. So I'm thinking of just taking this as Purdue on the money line, because I've got Purdue as he pulls up his numbers here. I've got Purdue by, like I said, handily. I've got them by 9.5, and I have their win expectancy of this game at 65%. So fair money line should be minus 185, and I think it's more like minus 130. That's enough margin for me. You've actually got them by 15, so you're actually giving me a little confirmation in that you've got a much larger margin than me. I don't know if this is a little too granular in the weeds, nerdy, although I don't think anything's too nerdy for you, with all respect, to make this a play. And is this something you might consider?
Yeah, I'll take Purdue here. The thing is, it's weird. I was on Michigan State last week, and that I was rewarded handsomely for that. Somehow Indiana was the favorite in that game. I'm still not sure exactly how or why. But I think people were like, oh my God, guys, Indiana almost beat Penn State, and then they beat Wisconsin. And then it's like, yeah, but those teams are bad. Like, I think it's like, okay, Penn State is not nearly as good as we thought they were. And also, Wisconsin kind of just gave up, I think. And I think they still have kind of given up, too. So, like, I think people are like, oh my God, they beat Wisconsin. I'm like, yeah, okay, but I think Wisconsin kind of has just given up. And I think that's why I was on. I mean, among other reasons, too. I don't just bet on feels, not all the time, only sometimes. But no, I think, yeah, I think this Indiana team is being overvalued by the betting market for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why. But I think they've played, like, some good teams close, but, like, last week they didn't play Michigan. They tried against Michigan State. I think a small bet on Purdue here is fine. I'll take that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say they're bad, but I would be very comfortable saying that both Wisconsin and Penn State are deficient. They've got fatal flaws that make them easy to pick off, or easy to stay close to, in Wisconsin's case, pick off. I've got the same dynamic here for Syracuse and Wake Forest, down to the fact that your model loves them. I have Syracuse by 8.5. Your model has them by like 28. I've got a win expectancy of 71% for Syracuse. Means that a fair line would be minus 245 on them. I think the actual line is closer to minus 150. So I've played Syracuse or Syracuse money line on this one. Again, one of my late season smaller unit plays, just to have fun and go into the weeds on that. It's not that I love Syracuse, but Wake Forest I think is sneaky really bad.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't even know. Like, Wake Forest isn't making a bowl. I'm not sure. They had Mitchell Griffs. I'm not sure if he's hurt. It's someone else now. I don't know. This is the problem with, like, there's just so many teams and so many names. You're like, is that guy hurt? Did he just suck? I don't know. And Mitchell Griffs was kind of maybe a bit of both. He was really good at throwing the ball to the other team, so maybe that's why. But yeah, no, Wake is not good, and I think Syracuse is like kind of okay. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, I'll take Syracuse here as well.
Man, Syracuse has it awful. I'm just looking at it right here. Just a horrible, worse than Wake in terms of point differential and conference play. Now, having said that, I still think that Wake's got some serious problems on defense, and Syracuse is actually playing for a bowl bid, which might not be a big deal unless your name is Dino Babers and you don't want to get fired. I think that he might actually, if anything, overcoach and really, put everything he's got into this one, because he really needs to make a bowl. Interesting. So, yep, I played that one. UNLV is kind of sneakily I wouldn't say the talk of the town. I'd say they're kind of like recognized by the cognoscenti of the sport as, like, doing a good job in the Mountain West, and deservedly so. Home game giving only 3 to San Jose State. I think there's some sneakily other people kind of picking up on, I don't want to say one of the dozens that watch this podcast is spreading it, but I think there's other signs of similar saying, yeah, San Jose State's actually, pretty good for a Mountain West team.
Yeah, they're not making the conference championship game, but they are making a bowl, and they're pretty good. And I feel like they're going to be. I feel like they are like 1,000% of play. We're going to be making in a bowl game in a couple of weeks. So we're going to be getting them like +7 against an SEC team that doesn't want to be there. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, although it might not be great if it's against a USC team that doesn't want to be in the Las Vegas Bowl, which could be very, very possible. We actually both have San Jose State winning this one straight up too, for what it's worth. Although by not enough in my case to make it a wrong team favored play.
Yeah, I think this screams trap. There's a couple of trap ones out there too. I don't think we're mentioning it here. Do we mention in the next part the Tulane game or not?
No.
Yeah, Tulane is favored by 3 against UTSA. That is 1,000%. That's also a trap too. That is like we
Yeah.
dare you. Go ahead. Bet on Tulane. Tulane's ranked, guys. Right? Tulane CFP ranked. They're the number one G5 team. Of course, they're going to cover 3. Of course, they are.
Yep. Agree with that. This next one is interesting. Arizona is playing for a shot at the Pac-12 championship game. Their their
Actually,
losses.
are
Yeah.
they or not? Because no, they are. But would that be determined by the time this game starts?
That's a good point. It might be. It depends on what time Oregon and Oregon State kick. That's interesting. That might be a little bit of
No, is
informative.
that a Saturday?
I think they're both. Oh no, that's a Friday game. Yeah, Oregon's Oregon State, so they'll know at that point. Yep.
Yeah, they'll know. Okay.
Yep. This seems like a short line for a team that's going to be completely motivated. Not that Arizona State doesn't have something to play for; they play hard for their coach, but they're just kind of outmanned at this point. I mean, Arizona, like I said, if they're playing for a shot at the conference title game, they're legitimately a good team in the best or second best conference in college football. Um, this line seems short to me. I'm thinking it should be closer to 20. I don't know if there's just a lot of rivalry built into this line, taking it down to 12 and a half.
I don't know if there is. Yeah, I've got Arizona minus 26. I get the whole rivalry things, but to be fair, both these teams are holding hands and moving to the Big 12 together. So, if one of them had shanked the other and gone to the Big 10, and the other one went to the I would say okay maybe, but they both went together. They're and it was literally the boards of both these universities said we're going together. And now to be fair, because they may have legally had to do that because of Arizona state law, I don't know. But yeah, they didn't shank the other one in the process of conference realignment. So I think Arizona here. Arizona State is they're able to be competitive in certain games. I don't think this is the one. And again, we have no idea the availability of which backup quarterback they are going to be able to play in this game. So again, Arizona. Here's the thing. This is the last This is the last podcast we're going to talk about Arizona State. I will be saying a lot of really positive things about them. I know I will be, and when we're doing the previews next year. I'm probably going to bet Arizona State to win the Big 12. To be fair, a little small bet on that, 100%. I actually really like this team. This team is making huge improvements. Just not this week. Not this week. Next year, yes. This week, no.
Yeah, that's not a great spot for him. This next one here, I'm just gonna go with the continuation of. This looks like this week's Big 12 line that stinks out loud. Cincinnati has had a brutal season. Kansas has been as good as I expected, down to their third string quarterback, better than most expected. I don't get the -6. Yeah, they're on their third quarterback, but he actually has acquitted himself pretty nicely. Again, is this kind of okay, well, neither Temple nor Cincinnati is a fun place to be on Thanksgiving weekend, and just the weather sucks? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's very weird. Cincinnati, I'm not touching this for the simple reason that I bet Cincinnati last week against West Virginia, and I feel bad about that. Again, not a large bet, small bet, but yeah, that was unfortunate. So, that's not happening again. Yeah. I see you've turned caps locks on.
Sorry. Yeah, I just noticed that I didn't have I didn't somehow pick up the Arizona State game. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my model's got that right at 12. Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
But
yeah, no.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, it just in a vacuum, I definitely would, but just again, the Big 12 line that stinks has been a pretty decent indicator this season. And then the Big 12 line that makes no sense to me, maybe, I don't know. I like Kansas State. I cashed on them going over 7.5 wins this season. Doesn't this seem like a lot of points to give to an Iowa State team that actually has been pretty good this season?
That does seem like a lot. No, I have Kansas State minus 15, minus 16. Wow. My mall weirdly likes Kansas State now. I don't know why, but it does. So, the model does weird things sometimes. But like, sometimes a spread doesn't make sense to me, and then the model says actually that spread's too short, and I'm like, I thought it was too long, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, yep, I think for the most part we're of like minds on most of these. Okay, deeper dives. We both have one this week.
Yeah.
I will be going first. I've mentioned this a little bit a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to update the numbers. So, I made the point a couple of weeks ago, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, about, I actually kind of think McCord is having a better season than McCarthy when you're talking about the best opponents. So what I did was you kind of see that in the Big Ten East, you've got this group of 5 teams. Apologies to Indiana and whoever else is not making the cut here. I forget. But you've got Michigan State. You've got Michigan, Maryland, Ohio State, Penn State, and Rutgers. So all of these teams have a defensive rush average of 3.9 yards per attempt or less, and a defensive apex of 80 or less. So defensively, they've got a similar level of accomplishment and, if not skill. And I wanted to get the best teams that are common opponents. When it comes to evaluating these quarterbacks, I don't really care which one can run it up against Indiana better. I really don't care. I like to see, against the common, really, really best opponents, which ones are doing best. So, the 3 common opponents here are Penn State, Maryland, and Rutgers. You can see they all have defensive apexes below 80. Rutgers is the best here. So the average is 67. What's interesting here is J.J. McCarthy, his apex is 114, which is not bad at all. Although for a Big Ten quarterback, you usually want to play at a better level of that to win games. The thing that really strikes me here is he only has 52 attempts in those games. If you think back to that Penn State game, they ran like their last 30 plays or something like that. They really didn't run much against Maryland either. And clearly they ran very little against Rutgers. You look at McCord, better apex against Penn State in, over 4 times as many attempts as McCarthy. The apex is not even close against the same Maryland team. Now, I guess they caught Maryland at home, since Michigan played them on the road, I'm guessing. And at Rutgers, McCarthy got the better of it. McCord had more attempts. So you've got, in these similar opponents, you've got McCord with clearly a better apex by 27 points, which is significant. 141 is good against any team, that you're playing, let alone, these top level defenses. In part 1, when we went over the top 10 apex quarterbacks, I think number 10 Penix was about maybe 12 points higher. So this is really good quarterbacking against very, very elite defenses. And he's done it in, more than 50% more attempts as well. There just seems to be, and in fairness, it might be because McCarthy has won the Big Ten before, and he has a playoff game under his belt. But it seems to, I kind of get the feeling that a lot of people think that McCord is going to be the one to crack under the pressure of this, it's not just, number 1 versus number 2 as you and I have it. But it's also, all the idiocy that's following Michigan with a stupid story. And then Ryan Day with everybody hates Ohio, the entire state, not just Ohio State University. There's just so much around this that, and 2 awesome defenses. I mean, look what I've footnoted here at the bottom. Michigan's defensive apex is 34 and Ohio State is 31. Basically, they're both making everybody look like Cole Snyder of Buffalo against some decent offenses. if I'm going off this data, I'm thinking that McCarthy's the one to crack. And the other thing I want to say is, if you look back at, okay, this just strikes me so much. They ran 8 times against Penn State. Well, guess what? Penn
Yeah.
State's offense freaking stinks, and you can do that because you don't have to score every time you have the ball because Penn State is not a threat to score against Michigan. It's like they're playing field position even in a game that they were trailing. Ohio State's offense is much better. Now, Michigan's offense is good too, but you can see they haven't had to baby McCord against these elite defenses. I'm just curious, and especially with that last game against Maryland, man, he looked shaky. McCarthy did. I'm thinking that if somebody cracks, and I think somebody is going to crack against 2 really good defenses, I think it's McCarthy.
So a couple points here. So one, the only 8 attempts versus Penn State is fascinating because on one hand you can say, and I think the argument is that we don't need to pass, we're just going to run. And to be fair, that was mostly successful. Penn State did lose. Michigan did win and cover the spread. The spread was shorter than Ohio State's spread, indicating that the books thought Ohio State was the better team against Michigan, at least. Now I think Michigan traveled to Penn State, so not necessarily the same thing. Penn State went to Ohio State, so there is a little bit of differences there. But again, you threw it 8 times, so that either says one, you're either like and the run game was somewhat effective, but not like it wasn't like they destroyed them by running the football. It was an effective run attack, but it's not like okay, we're running for 20 yards a play here. Everything we're just like they went full army. Why do you go full army against Penn State? And it's not like McCarthy was hurt, because if McCarthy was hurt, you pull him and then you actually just go full army and you just say screw it, we're not using a quarterback. It says they were concerned. They're like, we don't trust him fully. And even then, look, the attempts against Maryland and Rutgers dropped too, 23, 21. Those are lower numbers. You would expect maybe 21 pass attempts in a blowout, and I don't know his exact number of pass attempts in blowouts, but it's pretty low too. But those are competitive games. He needed to throw in some of those games late, especially against Maryland. They were in a little bit of trouble against Maryland there. So I have concerns. I don't think this team is nearly as good as people are high on McCarthy. I don't see it. I think Michigan has played a lot of bad teams, and he's been able to be okay, and it makes him look great. On the flip side, when you say someone's going to crack, well, last year, and actually the last 2 years, it's been C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud got blown up by Michigan a lot. There was pick sixes, interceptions, and Michigan was able to just take advantage of those and absolutely crush them. Now, we're sitting here in 2023, and now we say, how much of that was the sign stealing, right? At the time, we didn't know that, but it clearly played a part. And it's weird because we were we were one of the first ones last year. Remember, we said we actually were high. We bet Caleb Williams to win the Heisman last year because we said C.J. Stroud's going to have a bad game against Michigan. He can't beat Michigan, therefore they're going to just give the Heisman to Caleb Williams. And that's exactly what happened, right? We said he was going to struggle against the pressure. And I think that Ohio State's defense at that time was good, but not as good as it was now. Now I think Ohio State, there's a decent chance Ohio actually, and your defensive apex there actually has it, they actually have a defense, albeit slightly better defense, but they actually do have a better defense than Michigan. And I think, okay, Ohio State's defense is better than Michigan's defense, which has not been the case the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I although McCord is not as good as C.J. Stroud was, I think he's slightly better under pressure. And I think he's got a shot here to pull out the upset. I don't think McCarthy is that much better than him, especially if you factor in the rest of the offense. The fact that you factor in the fact that they've got actually 2 first-round wide receivers. They've got Trayvon Henderson for Ohio State. I think these teams are very evenly matched. And okay, yes, this game is in Michigan, but it's Ohio State. It's not a team that's afraid of playing on the road. And I think this is going to be a really good game. I'm excited to see this game. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. And I think if it's a defensive battle, you got to take I think Ohio State's got the better overall offense, and if Ohio State doesn't make the stupid mistakes they've made the last couple of years, I think they got a real shot here.
Yep. And especially considering a lot of the time those mistakes were on defense, and this defense looks a lot more together. One other thing that kind of two concepts or two facts into one concept here. You mentioned that Michigan's schedule has been, really weak this season, which I agree with. I want to compare that to, you remember I said last season when we were doing the Big Ten preview, I said that there was a statistic that, or a metric that actually made me gasp audibly by myself. And that was that last season, Michigan was they were second in GGAB behind only Air Force, and it was close. That was an awesome running game. And this year, despite playing a weaker schedule, they are 32nd in the country. There's a lot to be said for being taking that large of a step back against a lesser schedule, and now you're going to face the toughest defense that you've faced all season. I'm not saying McCarthy stinks or he chokes. He's going to be in a situation I don't think he's ever been in before as a quarterback at this level.
Yeah.
All right. So that's mine. You've got a whole series of schematics and hieroglyphics here that they look back at this, they're going to say, what was this guy talking about?
So here's the thing. And this is now the last year of the 4-team college football playoff. And as such, of course, it will end off with probably some sort of controversy, and I'm laying out the proposition for that controversy here. So, as we all know, Jordan Travis, the quarterback for Florida State, injured, horrible injury, horribly grotesque, very unfortunate, horrible accident, not meant to happen at all. But he's injured, done for the season, and now he's okay. There's a video. I saw a video of him from the hospital bed, obviously, and he's okay, and his college career is done. He's going to go to the NFL. So power to him. Hope to see him on a football field eventually, and based on the quarterbacks in the NFL, we will see him on an NFL field in the future. However, that still leaves the rest of Florida State itself. So now Florida State obviously was playing North Alabama, hardly a powerhouse. At the time of Jordan Travis's injury, they were losing by 13 points, which is a little weird, but okay. And then they went on to crush them the rest of the way. I'm not sure if North Alabama scored again. Which, to be fair, if you do that kind of injury, I think you kind of get a little gun shy and a little scared there. So I think that's kind of a little bit understandable. So the problem now is Florida State has been one of the best teams all year. They're a top 4 team. Normally, they would win their Week 13 game, which they're playing against Florida, which Florida has not looked particularly good this year, and then go on to the ACC Championship undefeated, and they go on and play Louisville, and if they beat Louisville, then they're undefeated, a nice 13-0 ACC champion, and they get to go to the college football playoff. However, without Jordan Travis, there are questions about that. So the first thing obviously would be, okay, well, they're down a quarterback. Maybe they'll lose a game and this will all be irrelevant. Well, okay, so currently they're 6.5-point favorites against Florida this week, which to be fair, and now normally this would be worse, but Florida's also down their starting quarterback. Graham Mertz got injured too. So now Florida's going to drag up some quarterback. Now Florida needs another game for bowl eligibility, so they're going to obviously clearly try to win this game. Of course, this is a rivalry game. So both teams need this. I'd say Florida kind of needs this a little more than Florida State. And if it was Jordan Travis, I'd say Florida has no chance. But Florida might actually have a chance in this game. We'll have to see. But yeah, so it's a completely brand new backup quarterback that's going up against Florida State without Jordan Travis. So theoretically, they could actually lose this game. It is not impossible that Florida State could lose this game. But okay, let's say they beat Florida, which to be fair, they are favored by 7. Okay. Well, then they got Louisville. Well, the look-ahead line, as shown here by FanDuel, they're actually currently slated to beat their 5.5-point favorites against Louisville. So theoretically, the books will say odds are that Florida State goes undefeated, and they finish 13-0 and ACC champion. And then, okay, so now let's lay out the scenario I have here on the right. So number 1 seed, Georgia/Alabama. I mean, that's kind of a bit unfair to It's a bit unfair because Alabama probably wouldn't be number one if they were to beat Georgia, but Georgia wouldn't be number one either. So whatever. But one of them would make it, and the other one wouldn't. Michigan, Ohio State, the winner of that team would go on and destroy Iowa by whatever, some ungodly margin, probably 21 points or something. So they will also make it as well. But then we're going to be left with four teams, and basically four teams with very equal resumes. Well, actually, it needs to be three teams to be fair, because two of them will have to play each other. We're going to be left with three teams and only two spots left. So move on to the next slide here. So I have made a comparison chart, which I actually used. I copied your chart because it looked really nice. The colors were kind of cool. So I copied that chart exactly. So basically, we have these four teams, and I've projected records assuming undefeated. So obviously, Washington and Oregon, they're kind of interchangeable in this case. So either Washington would be 13-0 or Oregon would be 12-1. Obviously, all four of them would be conference champions in this game, unless of course they lost, so it didn't matter. Washington, their best conference win would be Oregon twice. They would have beaten Oregon twice. Oregon's best win would have been Washington. Texas's best win, or best conference win, would be Oklahoma State, I guess. But theoretically, Oklahoma State needs to win. Or no, I think if Texas loses, then Oklahoma State isn't a lock for the conference championship game. But then this doesn't matter anyways, so whatever. But I'm just going to assume Oklahoma State wins and Texas wins, and then it's Oklahoma State. And then Florida State's best win conference win would actually be Louisville, because that'd be a better win than Miami or Clemson. Best non-conference win for Washington, I just put LOL, because I'm not going to choose between Michigan State and Tulsa. That seems like a bad idea.
They had Boise. They knocked Avalos out of Boise.
That's true. Okay, I forgot about Boise State. So that's, I guess, a little better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Oregon, Texas Tech. Not the greatest there, but theoretically Texas Tech could have a win against Texas this week, but probably not.
And it was on the road too, in fairness. It's not an easy place to play.
No, it's not. So they did, but to be fair, when Oregon scheduled Texas Tech, they thought they were like a pretty good team, and it's not necessarily their fault they had a bad season. But that is their best non-conference win. Texas's best non-conference win is Alabama, which is the big one here, because that could potentially be the SEC champion. And then Florida State's best non-conference win is LSU. So the problem here is you have two of them that have SEC non-conference wins, and the other two that don't. And I think that gives the edge to Texas and to Florida State. But let's move on. Moving on to the next slide here, you can kind of see the problem, because what's the committee going to do in this case? So, wow, this is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so basically, this is actually very similar. I remembered something. Back to the 20...
It's 15, right?
20 what?
I think it's 2015.
This is 2014, but I
2014. Yeah.
I actually remember back to 21 when Brian Kelly left the Notre Dame for LSU. And I remember at the time, now Notre Dame was not a lock by any means for the college football playoff, because the top four were kind of locked in already. None of them had to play each other. They just had to kind of win out. Maybe this was, I don't think this was 2020. No, this was 2021. All they had, Michigan was 11-1 against a 10-2 Ohio State, and Alabama was 11-1, and I think Georgia was undefeated. That was the year when Bama upset Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they put both of them in anyway. That was with Cincinnati, was undefeated from the G5, and they put them in too. Notre Dame was, I believe, 6th behind Oklahoma State because they had a loss. And now that's not the other diagrams, ignore that for a second, but I remembered that because I remember there was a press conference where one of the members of the committee had a very interesting quote. And they said, and quoted, this is the top left, if anyone in our conversation has a player, and in square brackets or coach, which is interchangeable, who wouldn't be available and the committee deems it's likely it will affect the outcome, that's the words in the protocol, that could be discussed and can be considered. Committee Executive Gary Berta said Tuesday. Each of the 13 members can weigh that the way they would want to weigh it compared to head-to-head competition, common opponents, and all other things we evaluate. So that was in reference to, and it was a bit vague at the time, but they were basically saying Notre Dame isn't as good because they won't have Brian Kelly as they would have before. So this would theoretically apply to Florida State with Jordan Travis gone. They're like, well, they lost their quarterback. They're not going to be as good. And there's another quote here. There might be one committee who thinks this team might be more motivated with their new coach, Berta said. Or I've seen some games where a quarterback who starts or running back that starts, they put in the next person and the team actually plays better. The most notable example of the latter is Ohio State in 2014, which sounds eerily similar to right now, which lost quarterback J.T. Barrett to a season-ending injury the week before the Big Ten championship game. Cardale Jones replaced him and led the Buckeyes to a 59-0 win over number 11 Wisconsin. It secured them a playoff spot, and they went on to win the national title. So, and this is on the right here. We've got Ohio State's 2014 season, all the games of it. You can actually see where Barrett went down against Michigan in the rivalry game there. They went on to win that game, and then they destroyed Wisconsin. Then they played Alabama. They were the number 4 seed. They destroyed Alabama, and then they beat Oregon, the number 2 seed, back in, 2015. And then you look down here in the bottom left, and these were the rankings that year. And it was number 1 Alabama, number 2 Oregon, 3 Florida State, 4 Ohio State, and 4 and 5 Baylor TCU. And if you remember correctly, this is what created the Big 12 championship game. Because this was the co-conference championship thing. Remember this? When they were like, oh, they're co-conference champions. And then the committee said, well, neither of them is a conference champion. So therefore, Ohio State has a conference championship, so we're going to put them ahead of them. So this is already, the last time this happened, this already resulted in a mass controversy leading to the creation of the Big 12 championship game. So this is already a recipe for disaster here. So, yeah. This could cause some chaos here. So the question is, now there is a little bit bigger of a sample size here than the last time, because one, there was only one game for them to evaluate R.J. Barrett, and they destroyed Wisconsin 59-0, which definitely helped, to be fair. But now you've got Florida State's backup. They're coming in against Florida. The easiest thing for it to happen would be the best thing to happen would be for Florida to beat Florida State this week. If that happens, this is clean. This is clean. No, everything is fine. There's no problem. If Florida State wins this week, well, then Florida doesn't make a bowl, which I'll be a little sad, but not really, considering the fact I saw what Florida did last year in a bowl. So that's not the most sad. But then if they beat Louisville, then the next best thing would be for them to beat Louisville, but then we suddenly include Louisville in that conversation, but Louisville lost to Pitt. So that should eliminate them anyways. But then the problem is then if Florida State wins that, now you're going to have, okay, well, they're going to say, well, okay, it's a backup quarterback, but hey, they're not bad with that backup quarterback, right? And they're going to say, well, they beat LSU. So this is now the problem. And now, again, with Texas, there's still a lot to be kind of unknown here, because Texas could lose this week to Texas Tech. It's unlikely, but they could. They could lose to Oklahoma State. Oregon could beat Washington. Washington could beat Oregon State, right? There's different things that could happen. But there is a very real scenario here where there are 3 teams that have very, very similar records or resumes, and then they could basically, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they would say no to Florida State, but at the same time, how do you say to this team, yeah, you played perfect all season, but we're not going to include you in the college football playoff because you lost your starting quarterback, right?
Yeah,
at that point,
yeah.
Then, I think, but then at that point, then you say, well, Texas has the better win over Alabama, so therefore we're not even going to include them ahead of the Pac-12, right? Because I think that, because you can make the argument that they have the better non-conference win, which I think they're going to do, and then we have the Pac-12 potentially with an undefeated Pac-12 conference champion being excluded from the CFP in the last year of existence, basically, which is a scary thought.
I agree. I think I want to go back a couple slides here. I think that if Washington wins, I think they have to be into that point. Even though they're not in the top 5 now, you're going to have 2 teams ahead of them that lose. And having them as an undefeated champion would be a really, really tough exclusion. If Oregon wins, that's when it gets really interesting. Because then you're going to have, then you can make a case for any of these for that last spot. And it gets, I don't know. It almost makes me, it reduces the sting of how bad USC's season is because they always come out on the wrong end of these things. it would be a rough spot because if you've got even if you're conference champ and you've been clearly one of the best teams, I just where does their best win, like I talked about in part one, stack up? Okay, you beat Washington once against these guys. You're 1-1 against Washington, but these guys beating Alabama, who's in. That's hard to say no to.
Yeah,
And that's their only loss. It's tough. And
the
an
other thing
undefeated
is
team.
too. Yeah, the other thing is too. Your ESPN. You're like, okay, it's between Oregon and Texas. Who would we rather have in a primetime game on New Year's Day?
Well, I don't know. Let me see. This is an ACC conference. This is a ESPN conference. This is in a shared ESPN conference going to exclusive SEC conference. This is going to a place that is not on the ESPN map starting next year.
That's the problem. And
yeah.
I mean, the thing is, although people are going to say it's that reason, and there are many good reasons why you could say that, like, this is going to be controversial. Honestly, if it's Oregon and Texas, I don't even know. I mean, the CFP committee can do whatever they want, short of murdering someone. But if I'm the CFP committee, I say we find a stadium. I'm sure some high school stadium is open. Oregon plays Texas in 2 weeks, and the winner is the fourth. Like, we could do it. We have the technology. I'm sure ESPN can find a couple of cameras lying around. I'm sure we can do it. It's definitely possible. But, like, because how do you break this tie? How do you fairly break this tie?
Well, in fairness, okay, they're both conference champions. Texas is ahead of them now, and they do have a win over Alabama, which will get more shine if Alabama wins that. So that's one thing you have
Oregon's
to keep
ahead of them now. Oregon's ahead of Texas now.
That's the other thing too. Is you're going to a conference champ. You're going to after they just beat Washington, a team that was in the top 5. You're going to bring them under a team that they're already ahead of because of why? Because Texas beats Oklahoma State in the Big 12 conference game, and they move up because Alabama beat Georgia. That seems shaky. The more I talk about it, the harder it is to make a case against Oregon there. But I don't know.
Because the question is, why is Oregon ranked ahead of Texas now? Why is the committee? Because, like, theoretically, if you're using their criteria, it should be Washington, then Texas, then Oregon. Because Washington is undefeated, and then Texas has the better non-conference win.
They do.
So then why is Oregon ahead of Texas then? Just another logical inconsistency.
No, although, I don't. If Oregon wins out, there's no way they're going to get. I can't see it. I don't, but I think Texas comes out on the short end of that. They have to.
No, I don't think so. I think
it's Florida State. If Florida State runs the table, undefeated, the only undefeated of those 3 teams.
But then so here's the thing. What generates the less controversy? We didn't pick Florida State because they lost their starting quarterback. We didn't pick Oregon because they didn't have a strong non-conference strength of schedule, or we didn't pick Texas because they looked bad in a couple of games.
You know what it would be? It would be we didn't pick Florida State because they don't have their quarterback, and their best win is nowhere near Oregon beating Washington. That's how you can justify that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh no, but LSU though.
I don't see LSU anywhere in these top 8 teams. I see everybody else has wins over other people here, in that scenario at least. And this is from a person who has a Florida State ticket.
Yeah, But again, though, like, the other thing is, again, we're not in that room, and I hope this is not a consideration, but you got to think some executive at ESPN saying, Florida State would draw a couple more eyeballs than Oregon, as with Texas.
Oh, you thinking that would happen only because, who's on the committee? The president of the Sugar Bowl? Are you kidding me with that stupidity?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's comforting. All right. I enjoyed that. This will, we kind of say this will sort itself out. I don't think it necessarily will in this case. You make a good point. I didn't think about this. There's a wreck coming. And you didn't even mention the other thing about whoever loses these they're going to claim that they deserve it. And
if it's Michigan, there's nothing. Like, we beat Michigan State. Like, no, they're done.
Yeah.
And even to Georgia, like, we beat Tennessee, like there's nothing. Bama, okay, you lost to Georgia and then you lost to Texas. They're two losses. They're done, right?
They're
And
done.
Ohio
Yeah, yeah,
State,
yeah.
we beat Penn State. Like there's not a lot these other teams have. Like basically, it's those two are interchangeable. Whoever wins those games moves on. The loser's eliminated.
I think Ohio State would have a claim. I mean, Michigan and Ohio State both beat Penn State, but Ohio State did win at Notre Dame. I think that counts for something. They're not in this grid, but where are they ranked? They're like in the top 15, aren't they? I know that my ratings have them way, way, way too high, but
I think they're somewhere around there. Yeah. Again, it's so
yeah,
funny because in a 12-team playoff, none of this matters. Florida State is
yeah,
in a 12-team playoff. Florida State is like the 6th seed, and none of this matters. Everything is fine,
yeah.
and we're debating between like whether or not. Well, like we're debating between where Liberty should like. It's insane. The 12-team playoff fixes all of this, but
It's over first round buys, which is like okay, great.
and it's sad that this is going to be someone is like. I think someone's going to get screwed. And I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be someone, and it's going to be because it's a 14 playoff and not a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it's the last year of the 14 playoff. Something has to go wrong. And,
yes.
Yeah.
I think it's college football, so something has to go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Buck the Bookie. There's the rules. Do a screen grab or hit pause if you want to read that. I'm imagining you don't have any more bets to make at this point? Okay.
Nope. I think we're good. Ouch, Florida State.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that stinks. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Although I have them a little farther than just making the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You remember last week I led off part 2 with saying, "Are you nervous?" Because I was very concerned about the number of plays, an inordinately high number of plays for this late in the season. Usually at that point, the number of plays goes way down. My gosh, it's crazy how many of these, not only just the number of plays, but how many of them hit. And you not just an off the model too. You had a very good weekend, 2, 3, and 1. So composite ROI is now up to 16.7%, which is just ridiculous. That's a win rate of over 60%, which is literally beyond what the pros consider to be possible. I do want to, and speaking of being beyond beyond the impossible, the BuckMetrics model is 18-9 on season totals now. Just insane. 27% ROI. I don't know. I see numbers like that and I'm thinking I don't need to be consultant anymore. I can just do this and just, I don't know, up my unit size by X 100 and then I can just do this.
If college football lasted all year long, then yeah. But
yeah, unfortunately, yeah. And then the preseason upsets. You had 2 this week. Iowa State was game. FAU lost this about 2 months ago when Casey Thompson fell apart, and then Daniel Richardson had his moment of being a comet across the sky. Look at this. I went 4-3 in my picks. This one wasn't even close at the end, Arizona over Utah, although I wasn't factoring in Cam, what's his name? Cam Rising being out. And then all our guests went 0-4. I'm wondering if we had done this when we had Isaiah on, maybe he would have been the one to actually pick one here. Although, like I said, Brandon, Big 12 Mafia came really close with an absolute one out of nowhere on BYU, and Shipper came reasonably close. He only lost by 2 on that Oregon State, which actually seemed a little nutty at the time when he predicted that. So, not bad on their end.
I will say a lot of these, like, again, insane amounts of closing line value in some of these, and just some of them just didn't come out right. So, but.
Yeah. All right. This is basically, and I probably screwed up the Mountain West because I think Boise actually has a shot somehow, as we talked about. But and the Big 12 is an absolute mess, so that still does need to be sorted out as well. But quite a few still alive here. And then this is what I expected more last week. Very few plays late in the season. All the models converge. This gives me more comfort, although at this point I'm playing about a half unit per play now. I've got a good amount of money that I've won for the season. I don't want to piss it away on late season anomalies. So I actually, this made me smile. I actually have Iowa and Nebraska coming to a total of 18.5. And knowing that game, that half might sneak in there somehow. They might actually get a half point somewhere. You're too close to it to be a dual model play, but I like that, especially on a short week. I think, if anything, I don't think that hurts the defenses. I think that hurts the offenses when it comes to these two teams.
Yeah, I'm playing that one anyway, yeah.
Yeah. All right, the next one here, Toledo at Central Michigan. This line has moved down. Now, we have the total here. We both really like the total. We both basically have this with the same final score, total at least of 68, well above the total of 55, which has probably moved up. I haven't checked, but when we're this far ahead of it, usually it'll move a little bit. But also want to mention that the line is down to 10.5, which makes this a dual model play. This gives me a margin of 7, and you have versus the line, and you have Toledo by 24 here, so you've got plenty of margin here. So I will update this, but for those still watching, note that Toledo minus the 10.5 is a dual model play as well. No, don't know where you're seeing 52 points coming from in Penn State versus Michigan State. So I've got this as
I don't know why I have it so high.
Yeah, Penn State's defense is good enough to be an underplay. This one's actually at Ford Field. It's not at Michigan State, if you remember, too. They had that little dust up. This is the NBC game on Friday. So comfortable in that one. Colorado at Utah. You've got Utah basically right on market here. I've got Colorado closer. Now, the thing is, I didn't know Shedeur was actually injured in that Colorado game. Do you know if he's out?
I have no idea.
Okay. That might explain the difference there. Back to I might have to give myself another Narduzzi for not knowing the quarterback situation.
And this is why we talk about it.
Yes.
But yeah, it's if he is playing, I guess you take it. Utah is not that good. People are overvaluing Utah, and people are also overvaluing Colorado, but Utah's not that good. So
they tend to be a lot better at home, notwithstanding the embarrassment they got at the hands of Oregon. They're a different team at home, I'd say. The next one, we both have San Jose State winning this game straight out. So that's a dual model play. We talked about it earlier. San Jose State at UNLV. With an interesting lower line. Seems like weird. Like we talked about, and I guess everybody understands UNLV is nice, but San Jose State is sneakily legitimate. And then lastly, Clemson at South Carolina. We actually both have Carolina straight up here. Again, I don't have them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
This is one of those just, okay, if you want to blindly believe in the model, go ahead. I'll make a small play on this on Carolina plus 7. That 2.5 is not enough for it to be a wrong team favored money line play. We have no wrong team favored this week. Year to date, 6-6 on the money line with a 26% ROI, which is pretty darn good. I'll take that in any kind of bet. Yeah, the totals have been pretty freaking solid this year. So, just a reminder: the bold are the dual model plays. In addition to that, Toledo minus 10.5 is a dual model play. That just the number moved into a bettable territory, and then the other 3 not bold are just the BuckMetrics model plays, and that leaves Robert's plays. So, who do you have?
Yeah. So, some stuff this week is weird. We're going to take Florida against Florida State. The simple reason that they need a game, they need a win to get to a bowl game. Florida State, I don't know, to try to limit chaos, it'd be nice if Florida State lost this game. If not, you're looking at some sort of doomsday scenario here. So yeah, we'll take Florida.
How many? Florida and how many?
6.5. Florida's getting 6.5.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll play the money line, but I don't necessarily recommend that. Also, for fun, and this would probably doom Jaden Daniels' Heisman campaign, we're randomly betting Texas A&M against LSU. We're taking the 10.5. I know this sounds insane, and it is insane, but weirdly, Texas A&M wins this game. I don't know how. Like, I only have them 7-point dogs, but like I think they've won this game 2 out of the last 3 years somehow. Like even like I swear, like look it up. I know it sounds crazy, but like weirdly, Texas A&M beats LSU in this game. I don't understand it, but okay.
This is that game that went like 8 overtimes. This is the game that changed the overtime rules, basically, right?
Yeah, like, I remember there was like a 6.5 LSU minus 6.5, and I loved that. And then they lost the game outright. On like, I don't know, weird stuff happens in that game. So 10.5 is too many points for because LSU's defense is not good. So
No.
yeah.
Confirmed.
And then also, what else? Give me. Yeah, give me Air Force plus 6.5.
Gonna
I like
do that,
that.
huh?
The model does like it too. So
Is it at Boise?
I think so.
Let me just check that.
That's a Friday afternoon-ish game. Also, narrowly missing the cut. Whatever. It's Thanksgiving. I'll give out another play. Middle Tennessee minus 3.5. I know we said Sam Houston State turned a corner, but Middle Tennessee is just better than them. So, yeah.
Middle Tennessee. That's from out of nowhere.
It is, and it's random. And like I was looking at that, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if my model's going to like Sam Houston, and it does not. And my model's like Sam Houston. Like it's been pretty good on Sam Houston State the last couple of weeks. So maybe it knows something there.
Maybe. Okay. Got you for that. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends out there and the ones that are in Canada. You already had your Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
Robert?
I wonder what percentage are like American versus Canadians for our viewers.
Don't know. I don't know.
I'll find that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have a good week, buddy, and I'm sure I'll be in contact with you over the week.
Yes, and we will be back. Yeah, you enjoy your Thanksgiving too, and we will be back next week for the conference championship games, and then we're on to bowl season. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
See ya.